Both of these stocks, they have earnings coming up later today. What are you expecting, and how big of an impact will inflation have on these two companies?
Well, the second quarter retail data is showing that consumers are still very much value oriented. But without a doubt, the child tax credit is definitely helping the low income consumer the most because they are the ones that are facing higher price costs without any wage increases. So as a result, they really can't afford buying traditional groceries at the regular supermarkets, but instead have to go to the dollar stores in order to buy food and basic necessities. And because of the strong demand, we're seeing that stores like Dollar General are expected to open over 1,000 stores this year alone and renovate over 1,700, while continue to expand their grocery offerings throughout these stores, which is a positive move that Refinitiv data shows that it's working towards the company's benefit.
You know, Jerome, you're mentioning grocery. Another big thing that people are buying right now is back to school items, whether it be clothing or notebooks or laptops. I actually did a report about this a short time ago. Overall, back to school shopping has increased 40% year over year, with apparel having one of the biggest increases, over 70%. Is that actually a catalyst for these discount retailers? Because things are more expensive maybe at a Macy's or, maybe even a Target, but they're obviously very generally cheaper at a dollar store.
So for a store like Dollar General and Family Dollar, they're just passing on those higher costs to the consumer because they know that they're receiving the child tax credit right now. But for a store like Dollar Tree that sells everything for $1, that's a whole different story. They tend to substitute their goods, the national goods, for their own store brands in order to maintain those costs very low. And they're becoming a little bit more savvier in their strategy. They're introducing something called Dollar Tree Plus, where they allow a small portion of their store to sell items from their Family Dollar subdivision. And these items are priced between $3 to $5. And Frank, some of these items are very cool. They have like vintage MTV shirts, Star Wars, and even Snoopy shirts that are flying off the shelves. So as you can see, retailers are not lazy about their survival. They're trying different strategies in order to stay relevant in a time when there's higher inflation.
You know, higher inflation obviously hitting people across the board. You've also mentioned another company that people don't really think of as a discount retailer, but when it comes to apparel, they are a discount retailer, and that's Target. Have some of these inflationary pressures driven people towards that big box store?
And to your point earlier, like you were saying that Ulta Beauty posted very strong earnings. They're not only just buying apparel, but they're also buying beauty items at Target. Target has become the one-stop shop and has stolen a lot of the market share, especially during the pandemic, from the department stores. And this is the one store that consumers are coming towards because they know that they can buy fashionable merchandise for way less than at a department store. And it's resonating very well because we're seeing that there's a repeat business from the consumer. So as a result, Target is one of the favorites, not only for back to school, but for the upcoming holiday season.
So I have to ask you about the long-term strategy for Dollar Tree or Dollar General. They generally don't sell things online. Right now, we obviously have a lot of Delta variant concerns. Could that potentially be a headwind for these companies, the fact that they don't really have e-commerce offerings?
It wasn't a headwind for them during the pandemic, and this is mainly because the low-end consumer really cannot afford to shop anywhere else. So as a result, they know that if they still have to eat, they still have to buy groceries. So as a result, they do know that the consumer will be coming to their stores and visiting them despite the Delta variant. So they're a little bit more, in general, the discounters are more Delta-proof than compared to the other retailers within this earnings season or throughout the pandemic. They've shown us that they have consistently done well no matter how the pandemic has fared.
You know, very interesting. And their growing grocery business, also very interesting. Is it comparable to what you might find in a supermarket? Are supermarkets going to feel some pressure from these lower to middle income consumers going to a Dollar Tree perhaps and making that a one-stop shop?
Absolutely. And in fact, because of so many dollar stores being surrounded by some of these supermarkets, and the low-end consumer gravitating towards the dollar stores, it's actually taken a lot of supermarkets out of business because they just can't afford in these low rural areas to pay higher prices. The convenience of their location is also a big factor for the dollar stores. Dollar General, for example, is located within 5 miles of 75% of the U.S. population, and therefore also causing them to have a very loyal customer base that knows that they are in the neighborhood, and they can go and buy their groceries for lower cost prices.